I need you to understand something before I tell you this story. I'm not crazy. I'm not making this up for attention or internet points. What happened to me over the past month is real, and if you're smart, you'll stay the hell away from Lake Mirren. My name's Jake Morrison. I'm 34, and I'm a data analyst from Columbus, Ohio. Normal job, normal life, normal apartment. Or at least it was, until 3 weeks ago when I got the first postcard. It showed up in my mailbox on a Tuesday. Nothing special about that. I get junk mail all the time. But this one made me stop cold. The picture on the front was faded, like it had been sitting in someone's attic for decades. It showed an old diner, the kind with chrome edges and big windows. Mel's Diner in red cursive letters above the door. I recognized it instantly, even though I hadn't seen it in almost 30 years. That diner was in Cutter's Hollow, my hometown, the town that's been underwater since 1987. I flipped the postcard over with shaking hands. The message was handwritten in blue ink, neat cursive. The water's getting lower. Come home soon. M. The postmark said Cutter's Hollow, with a zip code I hadn't seen since I was 5 years old. A zip code that officially doesn't exist anymore. Now, for those of you who don't know, Cutter's Hollow was a small mining town in eastern Kentucky. In 1985, the state approved a dam project. They said the region needed a new reservoir for water supply, eminent domain, fair market value, all that legal crap. By spring of '87, everyone had relocated. By summer, the valley was flooded. Lake Mirren was born, and Cutter's Hollow became a memory. I was 5 when we left. I barely remember the place. Just fragments. The smell of my grandfather's pipe tobacco, the sound of the church bells on Sunday, the way fog would settle in the valley on cold mornings. My grandfather never talked about it much after we moved. He lived with us in Columbus until he died in 2003. Whenever I asked about the old town, he'd get this look in his eyes. Not sad, exactly. More like haunted. He'd changed the subject real quick. I kept that first postcard. Told myself it was probably some weird prank. Maybe someone found old postcards from the town and was messing with former residents. Strange, sure, but explainable. Then I got the second one. 4 days later, different postcard, same handwriting. This one showed the old Baptist church, white wood siding, and a tall steeple. Message on back, they miss you. We all do. The truth is waiting. M. Same impossible postmark. Third postcard arrived 3 days after that. The elementary school I barely remembered attending. Your grandfather kept secrets. You deserve to know. M. Fourth postcard. The town square with its little gazebo and fountain. Check the records. 1986. They lied to everyone. M. By the time the fifth postcard arrived, I'd stopped sleeping well. This one showed a residential street. I couldn't identify the house at first, but something about it nagged at me. Then I noticed the mailbox number, 47, my grandfather's house, his actual house. The message read, check the basement, truths in the foundation. M. That's when I decided I had to go. I know what you're thinking. Who the hell gets mysterious postcards from an underwater ghost town and decides, yeah, road trip time? But here's the thing. Those postcards weren't just creepy, they were specific. They knew things, details that weren't public knowledge, and that initial MI couldn't stop thinking about it. I took a week off work, threw some clothes in a bag, and drove southeast. 10 hours to eastern Kentucky, another hour on back roads to reach Lake Mirren. The lake's bigger than I expected. The dam sits at the southern end, a massive concrete wall holding back millions of gallons. The water's dark, almost black in places. Pine forests surround it, and the whole area has this isolated, forgotten feeling, like the world moved on and left this place behind. I found a motel in Harlan, about 20 miles from the lake. Small place, probably hadn't been renovated since the 90s. The clerk was a woman in her 60s, with grey hair and suspicious eyes. You here for the fishing? She asked as I checked in. Something like that, I said. Hey, you know anything about Cutter's Hollow, the town that was flooded? Her expression changed. Got colder. That was a long time ago. I know. My grandfather was from there. Just curious about the history. She slid my room key across the counter. Most folks from Cutter's Hollow don't like talking about it. Town's gone. Best to let it stay gone. She paused, then added, though with the drought this year, lake's lower than it's been in decades. Some of the old structures are starting to show above the waterline. Damn shame. The drought's that bad. Worst in 30 years. Damn authorities getting nervous. She looked at me hard. You planning on going out on the water? Maybe. Don't go at night, and don't go alone. Why not? She didn't answer. Just turned back to her computer screen. I spent the rest of that day driving around the lake's perimeter. The clerk was right. The water level was noticeably low. You could see the mud line on the banks, 10 or 15 feet above the current waterline. And she was right about the structures too. On the northwest side of the lake, I could see the top of what looked like a church steeple breaking the surface. Just the very tip, rusted metal cross still attached. Further east, the roof of a larger building, maybe the school or town hall. It was wrong, seeing pieces of a dead town reaching up through the water like that, like fingers clawing up from a grave. I stopped at a gas station near the lake, the kind of place that's half bait shop, half convenience store. An old guy sat behind the counter, weathered face and calloused hands. Former miner, I'd bet money on it. Help you? He asked, without much interest. Yeah, I'm looking for someone who could take me out on the lake. Maybe someone with diving equipment. He looked up then, actually looked at me. Diving? What for? Family history thing. My grandfather was from Cutter's Hollow. I want to see what's left down there. Nothing down there but mud and ghosts. Sun still. It's important to me. He studied me for a long moment, then sighed. Tommy Briggs. He does diving tours sometimes, mostly for salvage work. Lives about 2 miles north on Route 40, red trailer with a boat out front. Tell him Carl sent you. He paused. And son, be careful down there. Lake's been acting strange lately. Strange how? Just strange. Water moving wrong. Sounds at night. He shook his head. Probably nothing. Old man being superstitious. But I could see in his eyes he believed it was something. Part 6. Tommy's dive. I found Tommy's place easy enough. Guy was maybe 40. Fit. With sun-bleached hair and a deep tan. When I explained what I wanted, he looked skeptical. Diving in Lake Myron isn't like diving in clear water, he said. Visibilities may be 10 feet on a good day. Most of the structures down there are unstable. It's dangerous. I'll pay double your normal rate. That got his attention. We settled on $500 for a 3-hour trip the next morning. Diving equipment included that night. Back at the motel, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about those postcards, about the initial M, about my grandfather's face whenever Cutter's Hollow came up in conversation. Around 2 a.m., I gave up on sleep and opened my laptop. I started searching for information about the town, about the flooding, about anything that might explain what was happening. Most of it was standard historical stuff. Town founded in 1889, mining boom in the early 1900s, slow decline after World War II, the dam project approved in 85, residents relocated by early 87, flooding completed that summer. But then I found something interesting. A digitized newspaper article from the Harlan County Herald, dated October 1986, mining accident in Cutter's Hollow. 3 workers remain missing after a shaft collapse at the Westfield mine on Tuesday. Rescue efforts have been suspended after engineers declared the area unstable. We've done everything we can, said mine supervisor Douglas Chen. The chamber they broke into isn't on any of our maps. It's not safe to send more men down. Chamber they broke into. What chamber? I searched for follow-up articles but found nothing. Like the story just stopped. Then I found something else. A letter to the editor, published 2 weeks later. To the citizens of Cutter's Hollow, I am writing to warn you about what has been discovered in the Westfield mine. The authorities are lying to you. Those men didn't die in an accident. They found something down there, something old and dangerous, and now it's awake. Please, evacuate while you can. They're going to seal the whole town, trap us in here with it. Don't let them." The letter cut off there. I checked the author's name, Margaret Holt, Margaret M. I barely slept after that. Tommy picked me up at dawn. The lake was covered in mist, grey and thick. We loaded the diving gear into his boat and headed out. "Where exactly do you want to go?" he asked over the engine noise. I showed him the postcard of my grandfather's house, told him the address. He nodded. That'd be on the east side, residential area. Water's about 60 feet deep there, give or take. The boat ride took 20 minutes. Tommy used a GPS unit to navigate, cross-referencing with an old map of the town. When we reached the spot, he cut the engine. "This is it," he said. "Ready?" I wasn't, but I nodded anyway. The water was cold. Even through the wetsuit, I felt it seep into my bones. Tommy went down first, and I followed, descending slowly into the murky darkness. The visibility was worse than he'd described. Maybe 5 feet. The water had this greenish-brown tint, and particles floated everywhere like underwater snow. Then I saw it. A street sign, covered in algae but still readable. Maple Street. My grandfather's street. We descended further. More signs of the town emerged from the gloom. A rusted car, windows long since shattered. A fire hydrant. A mailbox, still attached to a post, number 52. Then I saw the house. It was more intact than I'd expected. Single story, white siding now covered in thick algae and moss. The roof had partially collapsed, but the walls stood. The front door hung open, moving slightly in the underwater current. I looked at Tommy. He gave me a thumbs up, asking if I wanted to go inside. I nodded. Part 8, the lockbox and the truth. We swam through the doorway. Inside was like entering a tomb. The furniture was still. We swam through the doorway. Inside was like entering a tomb. The furniture was still there, waterlogged and covered in sediment. A couch, a coffee table, picture frames on the walls with the photos long since dissolved. I recognized the layout from childhood memories. Living room to the left, kitchen straight ahead, bedrooms down the hall to the right, and the basement door, still there, closed. I swam to it, grabbed the handle. It was swollen from decades underwater, but it opened with effort. The basement stairs descended into absolute blackness. I clicked on my dive light and went down. The basement was smaller than I remembered. Concrete walls, mostly bare. Some metal shelving units, completely rusted. Garden tools scattered on the floor. And there, in the far corner, a metal lockbox. It was maybe 2 feet long, dark green, coated in rust, but somehow still sealed. I grabbed it, checked the latch. Locked, but the mechanism looked like it would break with some effort. Tommy appeared beside me, pointed to his watch. Time to go up. Back on the boat, dripping and shivering, I held that lockbox like it was the Holy Grail. Tommy didn't ask questions, just fired up the engine and headed back to shore. At the dock, I paid him cash. He started to leave, then turned back. "Whatever you found down there," he said, "be careful with it. There's a reason this town was flooded, not just for water." He wouldn't elaborate, just walked away. Back at the motel, I took a screwdriver to the lockbox. The lock broke on the 3rd try. Inside was a waterproof bag, and inside that, newspaper clippings, photographs, and a leather journal. I recognized the handwriting in the journal immediately. My grandfather's neat, precise script. The first entry was dated March 15th, 1986. "Something's wrong at the Westfield mine. Doug pulled me aside today, said they broke through into a chamber during the expansion. He looked scared, really scared. Said it's not a natural cave. The walls have markings on them, symbols. He asked me to keep quiet about it, said the company's bringing in specialists to investigate. April 3rd, 1986. 3 workers went missing today. The official story is a collapse, but that's bullshit. I talked to Ray, one of the guys who was there. He said they heard sounds from the chamber. Not collapse sounds, something else, like scratching, and voices, but not in English, not in any language. May 20th, 1986. Margaret Holt keeps trying to warn people. She's a geologist, worked on the initial mine surveys. She says that chamber predates the town by centuries, maybe longer. Says the symbols match some ancient indigenous markings she's seen. She's trying to get people to leave. The town council called her hysterical, threatened to have her committed. June 1st, 1986. Federal agents in town today, not FBI, something else. They've sealed off the entire mine. Margaret tried to confront them and they arrested her. No charges filed, but she's gone. Her house is empty. July 15th, 1986. Emergency town meeting tonight. They announced the dam project. Everyone's in shock. They're condemning the entire town, forcing us all to relocate. They're offering fair market value, but it's not negotiable. We have until spring to leave. September 3rd, 1986. I know the truth now. This dam isn't about water supply. It's about containment. They're going to flood the entire valley, seal that chamber under 60 feet of water and millions of tons of pressure. They're trapping it down there. But what about us? What about the people who lived here? We're just acceptable losses. October 28th, 1986. I saw Margaret today. She showed up at my door in the middle of the night. Looked like hell. She escaped from wherever they were holding her. She told me what's really in that chamber. I don't want to write it down. Can't. But she's right. We need to leave, all of us, and pray that water holds it. The next entry was dated March 1987. Final entry. We're leaving tomorrow. Most families are already gone. The water will start coming in next month. Margaret's still missing. I think they killed her. I think they'll kill anyone who knows the truth. I'm taking these documents with me, hiding them. Maybe someday, someone will find them. Maybe someone will understand what we lost here. What we're leaving sealed beneath the water. The last line, written in shaky handwriting. God forgive us. I sat there on that motel bed for an hour, reading and rereading the journal, processing what it meant. The postcards, the initial M. Margaret. But Margaret Holt disappeared in 1986, probably killed, according to my grandfather. So who the hell was sending me postcards? I looked at the newspaper clippings in the lockbox. Most were about the mine accident, the town evacuation. But one was different. A small article from a scientific journal, dated 1985. The headline, Ancient Chamber Discovered in Eastern Kentucky. Preliminary dating suggests pre-Columbian origin. The article described a chamber found during geological surveys before the mining expansion. Stone walls, carved symbols, evidence of human activity dating back at least 800 years, possibly a ceremonial site for indigenous peoples. There was a photograph, black and white, grainy. It showed a stone chamber with strange symbols carved into the walls, and in the center of the chamber, a circular opening in the floor, a well. My hands started shaking. The last item in the lockbox was a folded piece of paper, not old, relatively new. It had my name written on it, in my grandfather's handwriting. I unfolded it with trembling fingers. Jacob, if you're reading this, then you found what I left behind. I'm sorry. I should have told you the truth while I was alive, but I was scared. Scared of what they'd do if they knew I kept these records. Scared you'd think I was crazy. But you deserve to know. Cutter's Hollow wasn't flooded to make a reservoir. It was flooded to seal something that should never have been found. Something old and hungry. The government knew. The mining company knew. They chose to bury it, and bury us with it. Margaret tried to warn everyone. They silenced her. I was a coward. I stayed quiet. I ran, and I've lived with that guilt every day since. There's more to this story. Margaret left information hidden around town before she disappeared. I never found it all. Maybe you can finish what she started. Or maybe you should leave it alone and forget you ever read this. I don't know which is right anymore. I just know I'm sorry. Grandpa, I didn't sleep that night either. Just sat there, surrounded by yellowed newspaper clippings and my grandfather's journal, trying to make sense of it all. Around 3 a.m., I decided I needed more information. I needed to find someone from the dam authority, someone who might have access to records or engineering reports. At dawn, I drove to the dam facility. It was a secured site with a guard gate, but I managed to talk my way in by claiming I was a journalist writing a piece on the dam's history. They directed me to a maintenance supervisor named Bill Hudson. Guy was in his 50s, overweight, with permanent worry lines on his forehead. History piece, he asked skeptically. Most people don't give a damn about dams. I'm interested in the engineering. I lied. how you built it, the challenges you faced. He warmed up a bit after that, gave me a tour of the facility, showed me the control room with its dozens of monitors and sensors. We monitor water pressure, flow rates, structural integrity, all of it, he explained. This dam's over-engineered, built to last centuries. Has there ever been any problems? Structural issues? His expression changed, got guarded. Why do you ask? Just thorough research. He looked around, making sure we were alone. Then he leaned in close. Between you and me, yeah, there's been issues. Started about a month ago. Pressure sensors showing weird readings, vibrations in the dam structure that shouldn't be there. And the water, ... What about the water? It's moving wrong. Like there's currents where there shouldn't be any. And sounds, he laughed nervously. I know how this sounds, but at night, when everything's quiet, you can hear sounds coming through the dam walls, like scratching, or tapping. My blood went cold. Scratching. Yeah, some of the guys refuse to work night shifts now. Say it's too creepy. He shook his head. Probably just the structure settling, or temperature changes, or, hell, I don't know. But it's not normal. Has anyone investigated? Sent divers down to check the underwater structure. Company sent a team last week. They found some damage to the base of the dam, cracks that weren't there before, erosion patterns that don't make sense. He lowered his voice even more, and one of the divers quit. Wouldn't say why, just handed in his equipment and left. His buddy said he saw something down there, something moving. Moving like what? He wouldn't say, just kept repeating the water's not holding it anymore. We talked for a few more minutes, but he'd said enough. I thanked him and left, my mind racing. Back in my car, I found another postcard on my windshield. I hadn't locked the car, but still, someone had come right up to it while I was inside the facility. This postcard showed an old black and white photo, a mine entrance, wooden supports, darkness beyond. I recognized it from the newspaper articles. The Westfield mine. I flipped it over with shaking hands. It knows you're here. Finish what he started. Last chance. M. Below the message. GPS coordinates. I sat in that parking lot for 10 minutes, debating. Every instinct screamed at me to get the hell out of there. Drive back to Columbus, burn the journal and forget any of this happened. But I couldn't. Something was pulling me forward. Maybe it was guilt for my grandfather. Maybe it was morbid curiosity. Maybe I was already too deep to turn back. I entered the coordinates into my phone. They pointed to a location on the western edge of the lake, deep water. I called Tommy. He answered on the third ring. I need to go back down. I said, tonight. Tonight. Are you out of your mind? I told you, no night dives. I'll pay you $1,000, cash. Long pause, where I gave him the coordinates. Another pause. Longer. That's over the old mine. That's deep water. Jake, 80, maybe 90 feet. And if those old mine shafts are still open, ... double quotes, I have to go. Why? What the hell did you find in that lockbox? I didn't answer. He sighed. Meet me at the dock at 9 p.m. And Jake, this is the last time. After tonight, I don't want to hear from you again. The sun was setting when I got back to the motel. I had 3 hours to kill. I spent them rereading my grandfather's journal, studying the photographs, trying to prepare myself for whatever I was about to find. At 8:45, I drove to the dock. Tommy was already there, loading equipment onto his boat. He looked stressed. We do this fast, he said. Down, look around, up. 30 minutes max. We headed out into the darkness. The lake was perfectly still, like black glass. No moon, just stars reflected on the surface. When we reached the coordinates, Tommy cut the engine. We sat in silence for a moment. You sure about this? He asked. No, good. At least you're honest. He started suiting up. Stay close to me down there. If something goes wrong, we abort immediately. Got it. We went over the side. The night dive was different from the morning one. The darkness was absolute beyond our lights. We descended slowly, Tommy's light cutting through the black water like a knife. At 60 feet, we saw it. The mine entrance. The wooden supports were mostly rotted away, but the opening was still there. A black mouth leading into the earth. Our lights couldn't penetrate far inside. Tommy grabbed my arm, pointed up. He wanted to abort. I shook my head and swam toward the entrance. I could see him hesitate, then follow. Couldn't let a client go alone, even if that client was an idiot. Inside the mine shaft, the water was somehow darker. Our lights seemed dimmer. like the darkness was swallowing them. The walls were rough stone, with occasional timber supports still intact. We swam deeper. The shaft sloped downward at a steep angle. After what felt like forever, but was probably only 3 minutes, the shaft opened into a larger space, a chamber, and the water here was different. Not cold like the lake, warmer, almost body temperature. We swam into the chamber, and our lights revealed the walls. They were covered in symbols, carved deep into the stone, intricate patterns and figures I couldn't begin to interpret. Not indigenous art, or at least not like any I'd seen. These were older, stranger. Tommy grabbed my arm again, pointed emphatically up. Time to go. But then I saw the bodies floating in the chamber, suspended in the strange warm water, preserved by the conditions, barely decomposed at all. I counted 5 of them, all wearing mining gear from the 1980s, the missing workers, and then I saw the others, deeper in the chamber, further from our lights, more bodies, but these were different. Older clothing, older equipment. Some looked like they'd been there for decades, all of them arranged in a circle, facing inward, toward the center of the chamber. I swam toward the center, Tommy frantically trying to pull me back, and I saw it. A well, a circular opening in the chamber floor, maybe 10 feet across. The water around it moved strangely, spiraling slowly down into the darkness. But the well wasn't filled with water. I could see down into it, my light penetrating maybe 30 feet before the darkness swallowed it completely. It was dry. How the hell was it dry? We were 80 feet underwater. I swam closer. The spiral current grew stronger, trying to pull me toward the well. Tommy grabbed me hard, yanked me back. He pointed to his air gauge, almost empty. We'd been down too long. I nodded. We needed to leave, but as we turned to go, my light caught something on the chamber floor near the well's edge. A postcard, fresh, unaffected by the water. I grabbed it before Tommy could stop me. The photo showed this chamber, this exact spot, but taken from inside. Looking up at the entrance, I flipped it over. Thank you for opening the door. Opening the door. What door? Then I understood the lockbox, the investigation. Coming here, I'd followed every instruction in the postcards, like a puppet on strings. And now I'd found the chamber, found the well. I'd done exactly what Margaret wanted, or what something wanted me to think Margaret wanted. My air alarm started beeping, critical low. We swam out of that chamber fast, racing back up the mineshaft. The whole time, I kept looking back, expecting something to follow us. Nothing did. But the water behind us seemed to move wrong, like it was being displaced by something large. We broke the surface, gasping. I've never been so grateful to breathe air. Tommy didn't say a word, just started the engine and gunned it back to shore. When we got there, he helped me out of the gear, then looked me dead in the eye. Don't ever call me again, he said. Whatever you're involved in, I want no part of it. Tommy, wait, no, I saw those bodies down there. I saw that well. That's not natural. That's not ... double quotes, he trailed off. Just stay away from the lake. And stay away from me. He left. I stood there on the dock, dripping and shivering, holding that waterproof postcard. I drove back to the motel in a daze. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely grip the steering wheel. In the parking lot, I just sat there, engine running, trying to process what I'd seen. The chamber, the symbols, the bodies, that impossible dry well in the middle of an underwater cave, and the postcard, left there just for me, waiting. I'd been manipulated, lead step by step to find that place. But why? My phone rang. Unknown number. I answered it without thinking. Hello, static. Then, beneath it, something else. A sound like water rushing, and breathing. Who is this? I demanded. More static. Then a voice, female, distant and distorted. Welcome home, Jacob. The line went dead. I stared at my phone, checked the call log. The number that had just called me was my own number. That's when I saw the notification. New email. The subject line, one more thing. I opened it with shaking hands. It was a photo attachment. I clicked it. It showed my apartment building back in Columbus. My actual apartment building. The photo was taken from across the street, looking up at my floor. My windows were circled in red. The email text said, "They're coming home to Cutter's Hollow, always takes care of its own." I called my girlfriend Sarah immediately. It went to voicemail. Called again, voicemail. Called my neighbor. No answer. Called the building super. No answer. I tried Sarah's number 5 more times. On the 6th try, someone picked up Sarah. I said desperately, breathing, water sounds. Then that same distorted female voice. "She's waiting for you. We're all waiting." I threw the phone across the parking lot. Then I saw it. On my windshield, another postcard. I got out of the car slowly, feeling like I was moving through a nightmare. The postcard showed my apartment. Not the building. My actual apartment. My living room. The photo was taken from inside, showing Sarah asleep on the couch. The timestamp on the photo, 10:47 p.m. That was 15 minutes ago. I flipped it over with numb fingers. The water will rise again. The well is open. Cutter's Hollow remembers its children. M. Then below that, in different handwriting, more frantic. Run. I got in my car and drove. Didn't go back to the motel room. Didn't stop to think. Just drove. Behind me, in the rearview mirror, I saw something that made my blood freeze. The lake, it was glowing, a faint green phosphorescence spreading across the surface, and the water level was rising, visibly rising, impossibly fast, spilling over the banks. My phone, still on the passenger seat where I'd left it, started buzzing. Dozens of notifications. Flash flood warning, dam failure. Evacuate immediately. But it wasn't the dam failing. I knew the truth. It was being opened from the inside. I drove through the night, heading west, putting as much distance as I could between myself and Lake Mirren. Every radio station I found was covering it. Catastrophic dam failure, unprecedented flooding, cause unknown. But I knew the cause. I'd opened the door. By finding that chamber, by disturbing that well, I'd opened something that was meant to stay sealed. At dawn, I pulled over at a rest stop somewhere in Tennessee. My phone showed 73 missed calls, all from my own number. I had 47 new emails, all from addresses that didn't exist, all with the same subject line, "Welcome home." I haven't opened them. I tried calling Sarah again. This time she answered on the first ring. "Jake." Her voice sounded wrong, flat. "Where are you?" "Sarah, thank God." "Are you okay?" "You need to get out of the apartment." "I'm fine. We're all fine." "When are you coming home?" "We." "Who's we?" "Your friends. They've been waiting for you. They came from the water." My blood turned to ice. "Sarah, listen to me carefully. Get out of there right now. Don't they want to show you something? They said you'd understand. They said Cutter's Hollow always takes care of its own." The line went dead. I sat there in that rest stop parking lot as the sun came up, and I realized something. I couldn't go home, not to Columbus, probably not anywhere, because whatever was in that well, whatever had been sealed under Lake Mirren for 37 years, it was out now, and it knew who I was. It knew where I lived. It knew everyone I cared about. My grandfather had written in his journal, "What we're leaving sealed beneath the water." But he was wrong. They didn't seal it, they just slowed it down. And I'd finished the job Margaret started, or maybe something pretending to be Margaret. I'm telling you this story from a motel in New Mexico. I've been moving west for 3 days now, paying cash, not using credit cards, trying to disappear. But I got another postcard this morning. It showed this motel, this exact room, photo taken from outside my window. The message: "You can't run from home. The water follows." M. The postmark was from a town in Arizona, a place I'm headed tomorrow. I don't know what to do anymore. I don't know if I can stop whatever I started. All I know is that Lake Mirren is spreading. The news calls it flooding, but I've seen the satellite images online. The water's moving wrong, flowing uphill, spreading in patterns that don't make sense. And every town it reaches, people start acting strange, start talking about going home, about the water calling them. My grandfather kept a secret. Margaret Holt tried to warn everyone. The government buried the truth, and I dug it back up. If you're reading this, and you live anywhere near eastern Kentucky, get out. Get as far away as you can. The water's rising. and Cutter's Hollow is coming home.